are using all natural light for this shoot. The window, I have south-facing windows coming from this direction here. I always like the lighting to come from the side, just so that it adds a little bit of dimension to baby, and so that baby's face doesn't look completely flat. And then on this side, I usually have a giant reflector, or right now we have this white paper that is going to bounce off some great light as well. When I start my newborn sessions, I always start with a very neutral color blanket. You can add in colors later, but these first poses are just so classic that I keep the blanket really neutral. And you guys also want to notice how I am really taking the time now to smooth out all the blankets. It will drastically cut down on the time when you're retouching if you take the time now to smooth everything out. And then when I pull up the actual blanket that I'm going to pose on, I'm pulling up that top posing throw as well. And that's just because it makes sure that nothing gets wrinkled. The goal is to always be posing the baby. You don't want to have to bring baby back to mom to hold her while you get set up on another thing. So typically what I'll do is I'll go through the posing order, posing baby on the bag, but then when I'm ready to switch out the blanket to do a new setup, I'll jump over and go ahead and do a prop and pose baby in a basket so that baby can go directly into another pose without wasting that time. When I know baby's about to fall asleep, I am going to go ahead and get ready for the first pose, which is the side stretch, hands together pose. So I'm taking my posing throw. This is about 30 inches by 1.5 feet. And I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to roll it just a little bit. Other photographers, some methods are just to really shove random stuff under your posing blankets, whether it's wraps or other accessories. But the problem with that is that really there's no method to the madness. So it can create a lot of wrinkles, and you're basically going to be doing different things each time. On the contrary, the way I do it is just extremely systematic. I use one posing throw, and this is really what I use the entire session to lift the baby up or lower the baby down. And I know exactly what I'm doing for every pose, so I can do it again and again and again each time. So for this first pose, I'm just taking this posing throw, and it's going to be directly perpendicular to me, and then it's parallel to my light source. And that's what I'm going to lay the baby on. Again, I know you'll constantly see me smoothing out the blankets, but it's, again, to cut down on all the retouching that I have to do later, because I'm not going to have to spend the time cloning out these wrinkles or anything like that. I will typically take out the props that I know I want to use for each session, and sometimes if I have like a great blanket that I know I want to use, I'll look beforehand to see what kind of prop could go with it. These are pretty, from a new vendor. I have my Canon 5D Mark III, and I have my 50mm 1.2 on it. I always start the session with that. When I move over to the props, I a lot of times like to switch to my 35, and same with when I do some wrap shots. But when I'm on the bag, I'm pretty much always using my 50. I'm always shooting in RAW because that gives me the ability to really fix anything that I need to when I go to retouch. So right now, it's really toasty in the studio. In my studio, I keep it around 80 degrees to start, and then I have 2 or 3 different warmers placed, aimed really at the posing bag. So ideally, you want the room to get to around like 85 degrees. I always let mom and dad know that it is going to be toasty in the studio, dress appropriately. And when I move to a prop location, you'll see me kind of turn the heaters around so the heat is going on the baby. You obviously need to take safety precautions. It should never be too close to baby. And if you have siblings in here and if your heaters are warm, you definitely need to make sure and let mom and dad know that they should not be having the little ones run around them. But it is definitely toasty in here. So when mom and dad come in, I have really all of my blankets out. And well, I always will start with a very neutral blanket for the first couple of poses to just get a very classic look. I will give mom an option of a couple of blankets. A lot of times that she'll just, let me take the lead and just kind of do what I think will look the best. But if baby's room is a certain color, or if there's a favorite color or a favorite prop that she's brought in, I definitely will use her input, because ultimately it is their session. They're the ones paying for it, and you want to do what's going to make them happy. So right now, my camera settings, I shoot when I'm on the bag around 2.2. One thing that I really stress to people is that you cannot be scared to kick up your ISO, especially because when we retouch, there's ways to get rid of some of that grain that might be in there. It's one of the reasons that people are scared to shoot natural light, because they have to kick up their ISO to 400 or 800. But we have ways of getting rid of that. And the nicer the camera body is, even at 400, 800, 1,000, you're not even going to see barely any grain. So if I just kind of, I might put something up here and see kind of where I'm going to be at before baby gets here, so my camera is ready to go. And then I can kind of just adjust accordingly. I never keep my speed below 1/125th, because I really like a tack sharp image. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes with amateur photographers is they produce very soft images. And while there are sharpening tools, you definitely want to try to get the sharpest image out of the camera. So right now I'm at, my speed is 1/250th, and then my ISO is actually at 125 right now. So I'm pretty comfortable there, and then we'll see what happens when we bring baby on. Throughout the duration of the session, I am not going to be texting on my phone, but instead I am using a free app called White Noise Lite. I have it on full volume, and I'm just using the white noise. They have other different sounds in here, but I'm actually using the white noise. The goal here is, again, to create the environment from which baby just came from, and that is super warm, super snug, which is kind of what the poses are going to lend themselves to. And then also, this is really the noise they hear. So this is going to really help them sleep for the duration of, hopefully the full 45 to 60 minutes. And I really keep that really close to baby. And you'll see if baby starts fussing a little bit, in addition to the soothing things that I'll do, I'll also really stick this right by her head to try to calm her down. She good? Okay. We are ready to rock and roll.